I have a very clear agenda, and I know it's debatable. It's about how long Kyle Shanahan is going to play Trey Lance. And I understand the downside of playing him too long. He could get hurt because the offensive line is questionable, and McGlinchey and Trent Williams won't start. I'm not so sure that McGlinchey not starting is a big deal anyway. I don't know where he's at, is what I'm saying. But Trent Williams, of course. Here's what if I were Kyle Shanahan and I'm not Kyle Shanahan, I would play him for a quarter because I think this kid has to play. And when does he play in games? He plays in practice. You know what I mean? He in the offseason, he has catches with people. I think he needs to see another defense, and he needs to play against it for 15 minutes or however many minutes he gets. And again, it's because he needs to play in a game. What do you think?
Well, I totally agree that he needs to play in a game, and the more reps, the better. There's some concerns that I'd like you just to address. Let's say, so you want him to play the entire first quarter. You're the coach. Would you also have the first string offensive line play with him the entire first quarter?
I would have my best offensive linemen that are available. McGlinchey wouldn't mean. I understand why you're not playing McGlinchey and Trent Williams. You don't want to get him hurt. Yeah. I understand he's an older guy. You don't want to get him hurt. But I would hope that Kyle has 5 reasonable offensive linemen that this kid won't get killed. And if he doesn't, if he's not playing the kid for the first quarter because his offensive line sucks, then shame on Kyle.
Yeah, shame on Kyle. Shame on the people who got these offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Now, the only reason I bring up like the concern is because he did break his finger in preseason last year playing behind the second string offensive line, like late in the second quarter of a preseason game. But you're not saying played in the second quarter.
Oh, no,
so
just
the first quarter.
Yep.
Against I don't have a problem with that.
Your best available offensive linemen. And if there aren't guys who are up to snuff at this point, it's a shame. It's a shanda. It's very bad.
Absolutely. And if you see that the offensive line is that bad, but you still need to get Trey Lance reps, there's things you can call. You can run the ball. You can throw screens. There are things you can do to protect Trey Lance yourself as a play caller and still get him the reps, which I agree he desperately needs. Kyle was asked today about how much he's going to play the starters, and he didn't have to tell the truth. He may not have told the truth, but he said maybe the first series. We'll see. He said he could change his mind based on practice this week. So it sounds like last year, he didn't play the starters for an entire quarter. It would be like the first series, and then Lance would come in for a long time. But maybe that's because Lance needed reps. Maybe now that Lance still needs reps, he'll change his schedule. He probably should.
The idea of playing them just for the first series, for me, is ludicrous. What are these games for? Yeah. It's like spring training. What are these games for if not to get your game ready? So I'll play him for one quarter seems for Lowell, foolhardy and almost a little arrogant. Like we got it knocked. No, you don't, Buster. You need to play this kid.
Yeah. You don't have Matthew Stafford. You don't have a veteran quarterback. You need a guy who didn't play last year because you didn't let him. And so now he needs to play as much as possible. And he can't get hurt because then if he does your seasons, then you got to make amends with Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, I'm with you on that. How much he played against the Packers the first quarter would sound good to me. But here's how it used to be, right? Four preseason games, it would be like the first series, then an entire quarter, and then the first half. And then maybe you wouldn't play the fourth game. Now it's 3 games in 12 days. So what Kyle's thinking is a series and then not at all next week against the Vikings, just the joint practices. And then again, in the final game, a series. I don't know if that's enough.
So in 3 games, Trey Lance would play 2 series?
Who knows how many he might not throw a pass. I have no idea, but it seems
I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like it. And here's the thing. Football's a tough game.
Yep.
People get knocked down. People get hurt. It's not the ballet.
Yeah.
And you need to be ready for that. You need to feel it. You need to face it. You need to be an NFL player. You can't coddle this kid because if you do, he could really not be ready when the season starts.
Right. If you don't give him a preseason now, his preseason will be the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
And that's your fault for not letting him do this earlier. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I acknowledge that football is a tough game. I acknowledge it and I kind of like it.
Yeah.
You got to face up to it.
Yeah. And it's not like it's what it was in the 80s. Like there's like 100 new rules that protect the quarterback. If Kyle Shanahan does his part and the offensive line does their part, they should be able to get Trey Lance a little extra work in these preseason games because there's a lot of pressure on him and he doesn't have that much more time to get prepared.
One other thing, Iggy.
Yeah.
Sometimes in these preseason games, the two coaches make a handshake agreement, no blitzing.
Yes. Yes.
It happens.
Yes.
Now, I don't know. I don't know what Kyle's relationship is with LaFleur at this point. I don't even know if they're talking to each other, right?
Good point.
But I know that in games there have been a handshake agreement. Look, no blitzing.
It's preseason.
Yeah. So that can be worked out.
I remember in 2011, Jim Harbaugh was really in his like most arrogant phase. He had just become the Niners offensive coordinator, and he was talking about how good the Niners were going to be before the season started. And I think really pissed off Sean Payton. So I think it might have been the first preseason game, Sean Payton blitzed Alex Smith relentlessly in that game. And I think the Niners were offended. And Sean Payton was like, well, I'm offended at how your head coach talks about our league, which he just entered as a head coach. So I remember that happening. I don't know if Kyle has antagonized Matt LaFleur to that extent.
Okay. Anyway, it's an interesting concept. There are so many ways to avoid getting this kid hurt. Handoffs, screen passes, passes to the flat, all that kind of stuff. He needs to be in there. He needs to hear the count. I mean, to give the count. He needs to feel the ball coming into his hands. And I know Green Bay isn't going to actually game plan, and the Niners aren't going to actually game plan, but it's still football.
Yeah, and he needs to face another defense because the one he's facing daily, he's not kicking his ass every day, but it's a really good defense, and it's creating. It's like the question is he just overmatched or is he inconsistent? Well, now we can go find out.
And it might even improve his confidence.
Yes, it was interesting today. Some days they have some offensive starters sitting and all the entire defense out there, and he really gets his ass kicked. Today, all the offensive starters out there, and they sat the two corners. It was like, hey, Trey Lance, why don't you build some confidence today? I think it's important to do that, though. You can't just beat the guy's confidence down in 3 weeks and be like, hey, go get him, buddy.
Everything I know about coaching is you're supposed to build the guy's confidence up.
Yeah. And I don't see that the Niners broke it down for two weeks. Today, they built it up a little bit by design. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Rafa, thank you for becoming a member. The Mech says, hey, I laughed at the Ayuk Shanahan office door. He clearly is shy or introverted, trying to become a leader. Really like him. Deep ball me, please. Did you hear this story?
No.
I asked Kyle Shanahan about Ayuk coming into his own as a guy, maturing and growing up. And he said, he used to be, he didn't talk. Now he'll come into my office every day and say hello, and that's it. He won't say anything else, but he'll stand there. So someone must have told Ayuk, you got to go talk to the coach. Say hello, interact with him. So he took it literally. Hi. And he'll just stand there. And then Kyle will keep the conversation going because he's so, charmed that Ayuk is doing that. But he must be extremely introverted.
That's a lovely story. So he thinks all you do is say hi and stand there.
Yes.
He ought to have a topic the next time, right?
Talk about tennis.
Tennis. Yeah.
George says, I understand where you guys are coming from, but the reason why I agree with Kyle is he got hurt last year in a preseason game. Well, we don't know what Kyle's plan is yet. He hasn't told us. He might play him a lot.
I think this comment is on point. It's fair. And if they're afraid of him getting hurt, I appreciate it and I understand. I happen to feel different about it. I feel a football player needs to play, but I understand that point, and I'm not putting it down.
Also, Kyle played Lance a lot in preseason last year. What has changed since then? He still needs reps. I can see him doing it again.
I like Lance a lot.
Dave says, Grant, Mr. Lowell Cohn, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you for doing this again. Glad you're doing well. You guys are like family to me without ever meeting. You're in my house for every video you make, Grant. Thank you, Dave.
Dave, thank you so much. That was a really kind comment.
Dave's a very sweet guy.